There we go. Right, so we've just set off the recording. Thanks for people that have attended. This is our second webinar we've done with the Club Matters Sport England team. So it's going to be another return to play webinar, looking at a lot of the return to play guidelines and various issues around the Club Matters. So we're delighted to have Sophie and Jessica here from the Club Matters team. So I will pass straight across to Sophie, who is going to go through a nice presentation with us. So over to you, Sophie.
Hi everybody, I'm just going to pop my camera off now that you've seen that I'm definitely a real person, just to protect the connection a little bit. Yeah, so my name's Sophie, I'm part of the Club Matters team, so I lead a lot on the resource development and things that we work on. So this is kind of the general agenda for what we'll run through this evening. If you do have any questions as we go through, you can either pop them in the chat box, or as you can see, there's a couple of different sort of items here, so we can stop after each one, and if anybody's got any questions at the time, we can go through it then, or if not, we'll have some time at the end. This probably won't take the full hour, so we will have some time at the end to run through anything that you guys want to discuss. So we will get cracking. So before I start, what I'm just going to say is that although it says Club Matters, we kind of use the word club quite interchangeably. So when we say club, we're referring to any kind of sports group or organisation that delivers sport and physical activity in kind of any shape or form, whether it's informal, formal, affiliated, anything along those lines. I know we've got quite a big kind of mix of people that were due to be on the call this evening, so hopefully this will all still feel relevant to everybody. So I know that obviously this is a return to play kind of webinar, but I'm just going to do a bit of an introduction to Club Matters itself, because speaking to Mark and Martin previously, it sounds like people have possibly heard of Club Matters but don't necessarily know what it is. So we'll just run through a bit about who we are, what it's about, before we get to all of those bits and pieces. So officially, we are a Sport England and National Lottery funded programme that's designed to support sports clubs, groups and different activity delivery organisations across loads of different aspects of running their club or their group. So what this actually means is that we're a bit of a hub of information and advice, covering things like finances and marketing and governance, inclusivity, fundraising. You can see a couple of bits and pieces up there on the side, but we cover a lot of different topics, and we do this in a number of ways and formats, which I'll get onto shortly. But everything that we release is designed to be really universal. So it doesn't matter what sport you're part of, or what kind of delivery organisation you are. Hopefully things will still feel applicable and useful and helpful. It's also all completely free. Everything that we tell you about today, including the workshops that Jess is going to be covering shortly, they're all completely free. The only thing that I would say is that for the website, we do recommend that you create an account with us. And you can register your club or your organisation as well. And the reason we say that is because there's a couple of tools and resources that we have that are that work better or are only accessible if you've got a login. Okay, so moving on. So what do we actually offer? So that link at the top there is the link to the Club Matters website, which is where you can find everything. There are a few links on the presentation as we go through, and I think we'll be sending out a bit of a list of links afterwards as well, just so that you guys have got all of those. So what we offer is a really big range of resources and information in different formats. So everything's available through our website, as I said, and you can navigate to lots of different pages and resources on different topics. And on each page, there's going to be links to other relevant resources and information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and I'm going to show you the website. Just a moment. If at any point I'm talking about something and it's not what you can see on the screen, just let me know, because we have had that before. So I'm going to show you our women and girls page as a bit of an example of what we've got. So You'll see across the top that this is a page that's part of our Club People members and participants section, and is also linked to our inclusivity content as well. So across the top, we've got some general contextual information, a little bit of research that's relevant, and a bit of an introduction. And then on this page specifically, we then explore the different age groups of women and girls, and we run through some of the research and the barriers and information that might be of use to a club or an organisation. So, for example, for teenage girls, we've got a little bit about what might motivate them to become part of a club, and also what might stop them from being active, because it's important to kind of have both sides. Something else that you'll see as we go through this is that we've got quite a few hyperlinks all the way through. So that's a hyperlink there. We've got things to hyperlinks to our infographic. We have an infographic that's specific to female participation in sports. We've also got a podcast episode about it as well. But we don't just link to our own work, we also will link to anything that's relevant in the sector. So, for example, we've got the This Girl Can website here as well. So something to point out, and the Women and Girls page is a good example of this, is that we work with a lot of organisations in the sector to make sure that our information and our resources are really up to date and really informed. So this page has been developed with Women in Sports. Other organisations that we've worked with are UK Coaching, so they helped us develop our coaches page. Also the Anne Craft Trust, so they're a charity that focuses on adult safeguarding. So we've worked with them on developing safeguarding resources before as well, and all that sort of thing. So I will stop sharing my screen again and go back to my presentation. Just a moment. Okay, so what else have we got? We also release videos, so you may or may not have seen some of the videos that we've done over the course of the lockdown. There's an example there, the Brighton Table Tennis Club one up in the corner. And we've also got some return to play. We've got a return to play video in the pipeline as well, so I'll get onto that in a bit. And yeah, just lots of other different types of content. So we've got things that you can download. So we've got checklists and templates, our infographics. You see part of one of our infographics on the right hand side there, written case studies. We've got a couple of tools. So you'll see we've got the Club Views tool and the Club Improvement tool. So Club Views is something that you can use if you are registered with Club Matters. You can use it to gather feedback from your members and your volunteers. So it's a bit of a ratings tool. So you can send them a link and ask them to fill out some questions, and it's a way to gauge how people are feeling about you. Club Improvement tool, slightly different. So that is designed to help you with your action planning. So it'll ask you a couple of questions about your club in different areas. So what kind of facilities do you use, what are your finances, how, what's that like, that kind of thing as well, and it will help you to develop an actual action plan. Blogs as well, something that we've been doing over the course of the lockdown is that we've had quite a few guest blogs. So different organisations across sport and activity are sharing their insight, and we're going to carry on doing that all the way through the return to play period as well. Our newsletters you can sign up to on the website. Workshops Jess will be telling you all about shortly. But something else we do is support and signposting. So as you saw on that page, we do signpost out to other organisations. But we do also have a monitored email address, an email inbox. So you can email us with questions, and we will help you wherever relevant. So that might be a case of us pulling together a couple of different links to Club Matters content that's going to be relevant to your query, or it might be that we'll direct you to who's going to be the best person to talk to about it if that's not us. So next one along, we've got our content priorities. So going forward, all of our resources and content are going to be grouped into these themes, and we're really focusing our efforts on producing helpful pieces that sit across at least one, if not more, of these areas. So this has obviously been somewhat hijacked by our friend COVID, who you can see in that corner. But you may have noticed, if you have seen anything that we've been releasing over the course of the lockdown, is that we are still focusing on these themes. So You'll see it in the return to play stuff as well. For example, we've got a resource that's to do with understanding how your people are feeling, and that kind of sits across participant development and workforce development. So I'll go into a little bit more detail about our return to play stuff shortly, but hopefully that's a good introduction to Club Matters as a whole and what the programme's actually about and what it can offer you. So we just thought it would be helpful to run you through that, because even if some of it doesn't feel relevant to you right now because you're focusing on return to activity, it might be that you've seen a couple of different things there that you think, oh, that's going to be worth coming back to in the future. So yeah, it's just letting you know that it's all there. One quick caveat is just to let you know that the website is being refreshed behind the scenes at the moment. So just to keep an eye out for that, because that's going to be released later in the year. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to my colleague Jess, who's going to tell you all about our workshops. If you're ready, Jess.
Yeah, thank you, Sophie. Hi all, my name's Jess. I am part of the Club Matters team who deliver on the virtual workshops. So as part of Club Matters, obviously there's a lot of online resources, a lot of videos, a lot of blogs, everything that Sophie has just mentioned, but there's also another element, which is the workshops as a whole. Prior to COVID, there were face-to-face workshops, and now throughout COVID, they are being delivered virtually. We're hoping at some point in the future, whenever that may be, when it's safe to do so, we'll be going back to face-to-face workshops. But in the interim, we definitely still will be delivering virtual workshops. So workshops are delivered very similar to this, that we don't use Teams, we use something called Tavuti, which again is simply just a link that is clicked through, and it is a very interactive way to deliver workshops. What we wanted to make sure that we continue to do as a benefit of the face-to-face workshops is that they maintain their interactivity, they maintain that ability for you guys to speak to other clubs, to share your experiences, share your knowledge, and kind of pick up on some good and bad practice throughout. So the workshops that we currently have available, then we've got 6. They are all on your screen right now. So we've got legal structures, which is all about understanding what legal structure your club is or group or whatever it may be, and understanding if that's right. Do you have the right support for your club? Are you fully secure when it comes to finances, to make sure that you don't have any kind of issues when it comes to legalities? So that's a really great way to understand from a really introductory level. So this is not anything, we're not advising you on your legal structure, it's purely just an introduction to understanding what the right legal structure might be for your club or group. The next one is planning for your future, something probably quite relevant at this moment in time. And it's all about how you can develop a business plan, making sure that you cover all the areas that are required. Again, if we're going for the likes of funding, if we're going for business loans, whatever it may be, a business plan is crucial. So we talk you through those key steps and come up with some key things that you can go through and make sure that you can identify as a club or group. After we've come about legal structures and planning for the future, it's great to understand how you then market yourself. So developing a marketing strategy is also available, and that's how you, again, it's not just focused on social media, it's focusing on marketing as a whole. So engaging sponsors, engaging the local community, whoever it may be, to make sure that your club gets its face out there and gets known. Then the next 2, participant experience and volunteer experience, very similar. One is focused on the right experience for participants coming through your door and the current participants that you have, making sure that they have a right experience, understanding what experience they would like, and therefore understanding what you can currently change to either attract new participants or retain participants within your group. And then volunteer experience, like I said, it's very similar, but it's all about how you do the same for volunteers. So how do you recruit, reward, recognise and retain volunteers, and make sure that they are also having an excellent experience. And then last but not least, we have leadership teams, which is all about having the right people in the right place. So making sure that those that are on your boards, on your committees, on the leadership of your club or group or whatever it may be, are doing the right things, they're in the right positions, they're there to make sure that your club and group can move forward. So as I said, these are all delivered virtually at the moment. We will be having 2 new ones as of September this year, which will be all around financial sustainability and engaging with your community. So we will have 8 and details of those will be released very shortly. Sophie, if you could just pop onto the next slide for me. So all the workshops are free. There is absolutely no charge for them at all. They're all delivered by accredited tutors. There are 2 ways that you can engage with workshops. I've put both links into the chat. The first one is engaging with open workshops. So they're just available to anyone in the entire country. You have to be based in England, but anyone in the country can engage and book onto one of the workshops that are available. If there's not an available workshop, we update it every single month to make sure that we're putting on new workshops on there so everyone gets an opportunity. Or there's the second element, which is organising a workshop. So again, as you can see, you need to have a minimum of 6 participants and you can have a maximum of 12. And if you can generate those numbers, either if you're a large club or group, and you can book our workshop for yourself if you can meet those minimum participant numbers, or if you've got a group of clubs in the area, or if you want to contact Mark and say, Mark, I would love to go on a workshop, can we please organise a legal structures one, for example, then Mark can work with other clubs in the area to try and put on a workshop. But probably in the interim, the best way to go through is the open workshop link to try and see if you've got access there. So all of them, as I mentioned before, are delivered using virtual classrooms. They are 2 hours long with a break in the middle to make sure that you can maintain your engagement. They are extremely interactive, so we get you talking throughout the whole thing. It's not kind of just a sit and watch sort of job. So the 2 hours does fly by, and that's one of the main feedbacks that we get from a lot of the people that do attend. The only thing you need is Wi-Fi, a laptop, so anything you've been using, or a tablet to go on your Zoom calls when you were doing quizzes back in the day through lockdown. Whatever you use then, you can utilise for Tovuti as well. And as I mentioned, I've put both of the links in the chat, so you can either take a look at the open workshops, or if you have got a club or a group that is either a large club or group and you can meet the minimum participants, or you can engage with other people maybe on the call or in your particular area, we can organise workshops again. All we require is the minimum number of participants on the day. Sophie, on your next for me. So the feedback so far has been amazing. In 2019, we ran 106 face-to-face workshops. Since the end of April till today, we have run 121 virtual workshops, which has been amazing. We're nearly over 1,000 participants that have engaged with that, which is amazing. We've had people from Devon all the way up to you guys. So it's a great way to engage with clubs from across the country, or clubs in your local area. And it's a brilliant way to not have to travel a million miles. You simply have it on your laptop. You've got 2 hours. It's something that you can do on an evening, and yeah, hopefully get a lot out of it. So if you have any particular questions, the specific email address for the workshops is here. So it's clubmatters@sportstructures.com. But if you email any of the emails in the presentation today, so the one that Sophie will have on later, you will get through to us. Or alternatively, as I said, there's 2 links there in the chat, and you can go and have a look at the information on there. So I don't know if you want to pause and just see if anyone's got any questions, Soph.
Yes, yeah. If anybody has any questions at all about Club Matters, the programme or the workshop specifically, if you want to unmute yourself and let us know, we can have a quick chat now. If not, you can wait until the end.
Yeah, I'll quickly jump in, Sophie. It's Martin from Tees Valley Sport. I'm conscious that we've got a number of very sort of non-traditional, if you like, sports clubs taking part in the webinar tonight. So I just wanted really to stress to those organisations that this really is a fantastic opportunity for you, because some of you are relatively new to maybe using sport within your organisation's aims, and some of the workshops would really be ideal for you, I feel, in terms of helping your broader organisation develop, but certainly then having really a great focus around sport and physical activity. So we've got Stockton Baptist Church. Catherine, I know, is in the group tonight. A relatively new organisation in Middlesbrough, who have a bit of a focus around the Ugandan community, and we were chatting to Axel Love a little bit earlier. So we've got 3 quite unusual groups there who you wouldn't necessarily would have a focus around sport, that are very committed to doing more around sport and physical activity and working with some great people. So it really is a fantastic opportunity for you, I think, to take advantage of these training opportunities.
For sure, and I think definitely, Martin, from a perspective, the participant experience one for me definitely stands out from the people who maybe sport isn't their first kind of the reason why they were set up, or it's kind of a sport for development sort of offer, because it is all about how you can make sure that your participant experience, if you're trying to attract people from the community that maybe aren't physically active, and this is just another offer that you guys want to provide to make sure that the community can be healthy and improve their physical activity. It's a great workshop, and definitely one that if you're unsure, I would start with. And we have lots of opportunities to engage in that. But like I said, the tutors as well, we will work with the tutors prior. So anyone that organises a workshop, so if it be Mark or Martin, or if it be you guys as clubs, the tutor will always be aware of who is going to be in the room in advance, so they know that they can tailor the content to you guys. So it's very much about you guys leading the conversation as well, understanding what it is that you want out of the workshop, and then us making sure that we can deliver that. So no workshop is the same, which is always great for a tutor, because it's great to share kind of knowledge and experiences. So yeah, just kind of to add to that.
Brilliant, thanks, Jess. I'm guessing that nobody's got any specific questions that they want to ask us right now, and that's fine. So Jess is going to head off, but if we do come back to any workshop questions, I will, if I can't answer them, I'll pass them along to Jess, and you'll definitely get the answer from one of us. So yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much, Jess. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Jess.
Guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, so we are on to the return to play stuff. So in terms of the return to play, there's a lot of really helpful advice and information from loads of different sources, not just Club Matters. So what we've done is we've tried to pull together a kind of a hub of these resources on our website. So we really recommend you checking that out. Everything that I'm about to run through on this slide, that's all included, and I'll show you the page quickly in a moment as well. So on the left-hand side, you can see that Sport England itself have released a set of guidance notes that cover some of the really important technical information around things like understanding your legal duties of care and guidance on hygiene, and also some bits and pieces around getting people back to volunteering as well. So that's all really interesting and helpful, and again, yeah, all on our website. And other organisations have been releasing resources over the past couple of weeks, and I'm sure they will to come as well, and we're linking to those. So for example, we've got the Safeguarding in Sport toolkit from the Ancraft Trust and the Mind charity. So that's all about supporting vulnerable adults to come back, and adults with mental health issues, anything along those lines. So that's an incredibly helpful piece. And there's also some free training from SimSpa, who, if you've not heard of SimSpa, it's the kind of, I think it's the professional body for anybody that sort of works in sport. But their Reactivate training is available for free for volunteers and coaches and anybody that is delivering sport at the moment. And it's just designed to kind of help you run through a couple of different modules that's just going to make you a little bit more comfortable about going back. So, you know, how do you look after your participants, and how do you look after yourself? And Return to Coaching, the Return to Coaching resources from UK Coaching has a similar kind of an approach. It's very much there to help people feel comfortable going back, and comfortable looking after themselves and others. There's also some reopening activity guidance from the Activity Alliance. So the Activity Alliance is an organisation that's devoted to promoting disability inclusion across sport. So they've got some really interesting and helpful stuff around reopening activity and continuing to be kind of inclusive of everybody, really. And now we'll move on to the Club Matters resources. So you'll see here that we've got 5 already released. We've got our Developing a Risk Register guide, our Reopening Toolkit, Creating a Risk Assessment Guide, Understanding Your People Toolkit, and a Promoting Social Distancing checklist resource as well. So what do these cover, and how do they all work together? I'm going to start from the left and move along, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen again, and I'm going to show you the resources themselves as we talk them through. So hopefully you can see my screen again. So this is the coronavirus page. So as I mentioned, we've got all of the links to all of those different resources that I mentioned there. Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff here. So, you can book onto the Club Matters workshops here. We've got some bits and pieces that are from the lockdown as well, but might still be of interest. Our video case studies, blog posts, and all sorts of resources on here. So let's work along from the left. The social distancing piece, our resource. This is information and checklists that are covering what clubs and groups might need to be thinking about or introducing or changing to make sure that they can implement social distancing. So this runs through a little bit of information to begin with, a couple of hyperlinks again, and then some checklists. So it'll encourage you to think about things to do with your outdoor facilities or indoor facilities, depending on what you use. Have you got signage and announcements? Do you need a one-way system? How are you going to approach having social areas and cleaning and other general considerations as well? The next one along, I think if I've got this right, is our creating a risk register guide. So this is a template and a user guide for a risk register. So a risk register is a document that clubs and groups can use to track and mitigate risks across lots of different areas. So it's going to include kind of identifying different risks across operational areas. So this isn't specifically about your health and safety and equipment and sessions. This is thinking about any risk that might befall your organisation in any way, shape or form. So you can see we've got a bit of a list here. And I know this looks very intimidating, but it's not. It's all kind of step by step and quite simple when you get into it. So, you could have issues around your safeguarding or volunteer or staff numbers. So are you going to have enough people coming back that have the appropriate training, keeping track of your reputation, satisfaction, all that sort of thing. And then it tells you how to actually develop a risk register here. And then below we've got the template itself. So that's a very, very helpful document. We've then got our creating a risk assessment guide. So a risk assessment is different. It is slightly different. So whilst your risk register is keeping track of kind of everything, your risk assessment is specifically thinking about your equipment, your facilities, your sessions, and how you are keeping people safe at all times. So this resource has been adapted from the advice that's available from the Health and Safety Executive. So there's quite a few different links in here to their guidance and their information, and there's also a link that will allow you further down to download the Health and Safety Executive's template assessment as well. And we've got a handy list of things that you might need to think about, and we've also got a little bit of information at the bottom about having a separate COVID-19 specific risk assessment and the sort of thing that you might want to consider in there, like social distancing and cleaning and all that sort of thing as well. Okay, so we've got the Understanding Your People resource. So this resource is explaining why it's important for clubs and organisations to understand the views of their people, and most specifically around how they feel about coming back to your club, and what support they're going to need in order to do that. So when we refer to your people, we're talking about everybody that's involved. We're talking about your members, players, participants, their parents or their families or carers where appropriate, your volunteers, paid staff, basically anybody associated with your club. And this is, as I say, focusing on gathering views on returning to play, and it's going to cover the long-term benefits to your organisation of talking to your people and putting them first, and making sure that you understand what support they want, and how you're going to go about that. We've also got some information here about exactly how you can get that feedback from people. So there's a couple of different options, and we also have a bit of a guide to different tools that you could use if you wanted to do an online survey specifically, because that might be the easiest thing to do right now. So there's a couple of different tools available, and we run through those as well. So the final piece, I think, is our reopening toolkit. So this really brings together everything that I've just run through. It's a really practical resource that works through all of the different considerations that clubs and groups might need to think about. So again, you'll see that we've got kind of step by step of how you actually use this toolkit, because I know it looks complicated, but it's genuinely not when you get through it. We've tried to make it really simple and really clear on how you use it. So what it does is it encourages you to think about all sorts of different considerations here. And again, you'll see we've got our hyperlinks across a number of areas. So understanding your people, and I'll keep going. So your activity offer, so what you're actually offering to people, how you're keeping them safe and protected, how you're going to return to your facility, whether you own it or hire it. And further down, getting operationally and financially ready to go back. What do you need to put in place to do that? And also marketing and communications. How are you going to keep people informed of what you're doing and how you're doing it? And so you'll see across here that you've got kind of space to keep notes of things. So, you know, what do you need to do? Who's going to do it? What's the deadline? And keeping track of progress as well. So further up towards the top, on the very first page of the checklists, there is a link here to download a Word version of this template. So you can use that specifically, and you can type things out as you go, or you can, you could print this off and scribble all over it, whatever works for you, really. And then the last page on this resource is going to encourage you to think about your service and activity offer. So it's just encouraging you to think about all of the different types of things that you can offer people, and how they might need to be adapted, whether they can be adapted in order to kind of allow for COVID-19 considerations as well. And again, keep a list of risks and deadlines and all that sort of thing. So that is going to feed into our next piece, which is in development at the moment. I'll just go back to the presentation. Hopefully you can see that. Let me know if you can't. But yeah, reimagining your offer on the side here. So this is a resource in development at the moment that's going to encourage you to think about everything that you've been doing. So it's going to encourage you to reflect on the previous months, take account of the activities that you might have had to stop or introduce, or anything that you could actually continue all the way through lockdown, so that you can understand exactly what it is that you can offer to people going forward, and what you want to offer. So the main thing that hopefully you'll get from the diagram here is that all of these resources work together. They all sort of feed into each other. So all of those 4 across the bottom, you can do them kind of simultaneously or separately, but they feed into the reopening toolkit. There's a lot of different considerations in there that will feed in. So again, you can do the reopening toolkit kind of on its own afterwards, or you can do it at the same time you're working through everything else. It's just whatever works for you when you've had a look through it. And then once you have finished with those and our reimagining your offer piece comes out, all of that thinking will then help you to guide the club into what it's going to be able to offer people going forward. So I think that is everything. There's one more thing to run through.
Sorry, Sophie. Yeah.
Sorry.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm a bit struggling to follow you.
Oh,
your
sorry.
slides. I can't see them at all. Don't know. I can't see your slides at all. I don't know whether that is me or everybody.
Sorry, I think. Is anybody else having trouble? Is there anything I need to go back through?
I can see them all, Sophie.
Yeah, everything okay? What we can do is later on. I don't think it'll be a problem if we pop the slides themselves into we can PDF them and pop them into an email and send them out to people later, so that you can refer back to these, and hopefully the recording will be working out as well. So we might be able to share that. So if anybody is having any issues, let me know. But hopefully we've got some ways to get round that. So yeah. So sorry. The last thing I will run through in a second is the surveys. But just to say, if you have any feedback on what you've seen of our return to play stuff, whether there's a specific thing that you think, oh, that's definitely going to be really helpful, I'm really interested in that, or you think maybe there's a really obvious gap that we've missed, it would be great to kind of hear your thoughts when we finished. So yeah, so you know, if you have got anything to share, we will get to that in a second. But yeah, as I say, the very last thing is our return to sport and activity surveys. So the surveys have now closed. This is kind of more of an FYI, just so that you know what Club Matters is currently working on. So what we did is we sent out a survey to volunteers and members and participants across the country to find out how they're feeling about returning to their club or their group specifically, because it's one thing to go back to, you know, being able to go to your gym or something along those lines, but it's a completely different environment if you go back to a club or a group, because you know that you're going to be kind of working together with people. So it's different considerations, and we just wanted to find out how people are, how people want to approach that and what kind of support they might need. So as I say, the surveys have closed. So what we're going to be doing over the coming weeks is we're going to be reviewing all of that data to find out all of the kind of insight that people have shared with us, all of the feedback, and all of that's going to be shared with organisations in the sector. All those key findings will be shared. And we're hoping that that's going to inform some kind of immediate actions that, you know, people are saying we really want to hear about X or Y or whatever, and just general future support and upcoming resources across every level. So so it won't just be for us. That's going to be shared across the sector so that everybody can respond to what people have been telling us. Okay, so that is the kind of the full presentation. So obviously, thank you very much for joining us and for listening. I hope it has been interesting. There's a couple of different ways that you can keep track of what's going on with Club Matters. So as mentioned, you can sign up for the newsletter on the website. So when you go onto the website, you'll get a little pop-up box in the bottom corner, and you can just pop your email address in there, and you'll get our newsletter on I think it's a monthly basis. And you can also obviously unsubscribe at any time. We do have our own channel on YouTube, so whenever we develop videos, they all go up onto YouTube. So we've got quite a big number of videos on there at the moment, and we do have a return to play video in the pipeline at the moment that we're working on, which will hopefully be out kind of again in the coming weeks. You can also follow Sport England's social media, so their Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn, and sometimes Instagram as well. They'll post updates about us and what we've got going on, and links to specific resources that might be of interest. And again, as mentioned, you can email us with any questions whatsoever. So it might be something specifically to do with one of our resources, or it might just be a general question that you've got about something that you are facing as a club or an organisation. And we will respond. We will either answer your query ourselves if we can, or we will kind of try and pass it along to somebody who's better placed to help you. But I think that is everything. So we can now kind of move on to the questions and discussion bit. If there's anybody, if there's anything that anybody wants to chat about or ask, feel free to unmute yourself. I can leave the presentation up in case you want to go back to any specific slides. But yeah, feel free to ask us anything. Or if there's no questions, if there's any feedback at all on the webinar in general, we could stop recording if people would prefer not to be recorded as we go through. If Mark, would you be all right with that?
Yeah, I've